Hello and welcome to Lesson 4 for the short story 10 Minutes Musing by Alice Dunbar Nelson. My name's Sarah Coelho. I'm a native British English speaker and a teacher of both English literature and also English as an additional language. Here on this channel, I help intermediate to advanced learners of English use English literature as a motivation to move forward, to do lots of reading and speaking, and it is my mission to help you communicate in English with greater clarity and confidence. In this lesson, we are going to look at the meaning of the short story 10 Minutes Musing by Alice Dunbar Nelson. Of course, if you haven't read the story, it would be good to start back at lesson 1 in this mini course, otherwise none of this will make any sense. Let's start with a discussion of general meaning. We'll go through the 5 W's: who, what, where, when, and why. As you see questions come up throughout this video, I highly recommend you pause the video, grab a notepad, and see if you can write down what your thoughts are before I give you the answer. We'll begin with looking at who. Who is the protagonist, the main character of the story? The main character is a teacher. This character is also the narrator, person telling the story, and this means the story is written in a first-person point of view. A first-person narrative style is when the narrator is a character in the story, dictating events from their perspective, using I or we. What happens in the story? What is the teacher watching? Write down your answer. We're going to leave this one on pause for a moment and come back to it. Where? Where is the story set? Where is the setting? i.e., where does the action take place? Answer: the action takes place in a playground where pupils are gathered during their break from lessons, their intermission. In the UK, we use the word pupil to describe a child who's studying at school. In the US, they use the word student. Similarly, playground is a UK word, and schoolyard is the American or US version. When does the story take place? Answer: the event happens in the middle of the school day at intermission, also known as interval or break time. Why? Why is this event important? Answer: the author is making a point about life. We'll come back to this as well in a moment. Okay, so I said we would talk a little more about what happens in the story. Well, to understand this, you really need to understand and think about this question. What is the narrator watching? Is it a huge fight in the playground or a football match in the playground? So is it a fight or is it a football match? If you answered a football match, then you are correct. Well done. Let's look in a little more detail at the plot, which is what happens in the story. In this short story, there are really 3 distinct sections. 1, the panicked external action at the beginning that the narrator sees. 2, the narrator's musings. 3, a return to seeing external events. Can you take a moment and write down as much as you have understood for each section? Think about what happens in each of these 3 sections. It might help to go back to lesson 3, as it is a difficult story but quite a short one, so you could read the story again and that might help. Plot, section 1, external action. The first-person narrator is a teacher who hears a terrible noise and sees a crowd of boys. All the teachers rush outside, thinking it is a huge fight they will have to stop. The narrator describes how brutal the crowd is and describes them as a mob. What impact does it have that the story starts with the teachers panicking that there seems to be a big fight outside? Have a think about that and write down your answer. Well, really, this develops a sense of fear and violence and makes it clear that the mob have power. It also creates a sense of chaos, as there is a sense of panic because those who are supposed to be in charge are not. They are worried people have been hurt. Plot, Section 2, Internal Musings. The narrator realizes it's a game of football. She reflects on the game of football and how hard the children are playing it and compares that to the game of life. Just as the bigger boys have no concern for the smaller when they are trying to win, so too, she says humans in real life, and especially in the business world, all too often will use their power to trample on others. So she reflects on power in this section as well. What impact does this section of musing have? It allows the narrator to use the football game as a chance to reflect on humanity's desire for power and money. This is really the why of the story. This is why the football game is important. That analogy is at the center of it all. Plot Section 3, Return to External Action. The school bell ringing brings the students back to their reality of being at school, and they shift from mass disorder to military precision. The narrator observes them falling into line. There is a shift from the musing to the narrator's day-to-day reality. The ending feels like a sharp transition back to reality. Perhaps the suggestion is that we don't get enough time to reflect on our lives. It's rare to be an observer, just musing about what is happening. Do you remember those speaking questions from the end of Lesson 3? I'll read them out again. You might like to pause the video and try answering them again. There will also be a few new speaking prompts. What is the story about? Where is the story set and how can you tell? How did the story make you feel? What are the main themes, big ideas, of the story? Do you agree with the narrator's views on life? There is quite a lot we didn't cover in this lesson, of course. We didn't look at the themes, the analogy the narrator makes, and how the author uses language. That is covered in the material which is available in the free resource library, along with an interactive quiz for this lesson. Check the link in the description if you're interested. And then I would love to ask, what questions do you still have? Leave me a question in the comment section and let me know. Okay, that is the last lesson of this mini course of 4 lessons. I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for getting to the end of all 4 of them. And I look forward to seeing what questions you have. Thanks. Bye for now.